Hey guys, it is John C. Morley here, serial entrepreneur. It is great to be with you just on the cutting edge of April 28th, which is Sunday night. We've got this in before April 29th, which is Monday. So welcome everyone. We are talking about a great master topic, whether you're here at 11:30, 6 p.m., 11:36 a.m., 3 a.m., 3 p.m., or 6 a.m., or 6 p.m. It doesn't matter. Thank you so much for being with me here. I'm really very grateful for that. Our master topic of the week is dynamics of muscle memory. We're on series 3, and we're on show number 18. And the specific granular piece for this is Muscle Memory Magic, Unleash Your Inner Genius, Series 3, Show 18, Episode number 2. So how do we start the magic? Well, let's decode muscle memory. Let's start with that. I think that's probably good. So muscle memory. What is muscle memory? I mean, we talk about it a little bit, but what really is muscle memory? It's a process that takes a series of complex neurological sequences within the brain, and it can be broken down to several stages. And we're going to get very detailed with this. So we're going to start with a few basic steps. And so the first thing we need to do to understand this is we're going to dive into something called the learning phase. Yes, the learning phase. This is where all good memory work starts. So the neural pathways form. And when a new skill or task is first learned, the brain begins to create new neural pathways. These pathways connect regions involved in motor planning and execution. And then the primary motor cortex is the main VIP player in initiating and controlling voluntary movement. So that's very important. So learning involves strengthening the connections, the synapses between neurons. Let me say that again. Learning involves strengthening the connections or synapses between neurons. So learning involves strengthening the connections and synapses between neurons. As movements are practiced, these synaptic connections become more efficient and allow signals to travel more quickly and reliably along the neural pathway. So that's where it starts, ladies and gentlemen. It starts right there. But I want you to understand something, that muscle memory doesn't start, like, it's not the muscle that stores anything. It's the neural, basically, body that's doing it. It's not the muscle, okay? It is basically our neural pathways that do it. So that's really, really important. So now that we understand a little bit about it, what I want to describe for you is that if you've ever ridden a bike before, or maybe you've gone to an ATM and you push code, your fingers seem to go where they need to go, or you ride a bike and it's like it just happens without you having to think about it, right? So that's an example of muscle memory, right? Basically, the muscles and motor neurons know where to be at a certain point in time. Think of muscle memory if you ever think of like a machine, if you will. And so maybe we could think of some servo motors, right, that are very precise. When either a card gets fed into the machine or a program is run, it tells those servo motors, okay, where to be on what part of the grid and whether to spin left or right and how fast to spin. So in our bodies, it tells which motor neuron that we're talking to and what it needs to do to get it to what position. There might be a series of motor neurons that have to be involved. Like when we talk about moving a large crane, or if we talk about, a factory and certain production equipment, there's several motors that have to move. So it goes X, Y, and Z axis. So our body actually knows the state that we want to be in. Kind of like if you think of the memory seat in your car, if you have one of those power memory seats. Well, the memory seat, you set it to where you want to be, up, down, like all the different positions, right? 6 position, 8 position. Now they have 12 position. And so you set the seat to where you want to go. Then you press memory, and then you press memory position 1 or memory position 2. And whenever you, let's say, approach the car, or you press the unlock button with key fob 1, it goes automatically into the stored position by bringing the seat and the steering wheel all back into the preference of what you want for you as a driver, being driver one, or if you're driver two, etc. So our motor neurons are the same way. They're able to go into a certain state basically when we trigger them. If we swim, swimming is a great example of muscle memory, because your body just has to know what to turn, how to pivot, how to go back and forth. And you blow bubbles, how to move it. You don't think about every part of your hand and what you're doing. You in the beginning you did, right? But when you do it after a while, it's like it just sort of happens. So let's talk about the next phase, which is the learning phase. The learning phase is very critical. All right. And so the pathways connect regions involved in the motor planning and execution, and the movements are basically practiced. The synaptic connections become more efficient and allow the signal to travel more quickly and reliably along the neural pathways. All right, so now that we get that, let's move on to the next step for tonight, which is the power of repetition and practice. So there is something called myelineation. I'm not sure if you guys heard of that before. It's called myelineation. So it's basically a specialized membrane for cell communication, and it is very, very important. And so you might be asking, what's the role of myelineation? So myelineation of the axons is the nervous system of the vertebrae, enabling fast impulse propagation of the best understood concepts in neurophysiology. Okay. Myelineation, for example, in a child has to develop. Through early neurodevelopment, myelineation provides the foundation for brain connectivity and supports the emergence of cognitive and behavioral functioning. Now, in early life, it's the time when it can be a modifiable factor that can shape myelineation and consequently cognitive outcomes. Okay. So that's pretty much where that goes there. So talking a little more about it. So now that we understand it, with repeated practice, the neural pathways become more insulated with more myelin. Okay. It's a fatty substance that speeds up the transmission of signals, and the thicker the myelin sheaths enhance the efficiency of communication between neurons, allowing for smoother and faster execution of movements. It's kind of like if you had let's say you had a radio, and if you had a great antenna, the signal would travel a lot further, and it would have little, if any, interference. Okay. So now that we understand that, we can know that repetition is how we get the myelineation to form, and we get it to be almost like second nature. But what I want to tell you is that you don't do something once like, oh my gosh, it's just going to happen. No, it doesn't work like that, guys. You have to do this over and over and over again. And you might get tired of it, okay? But it's funny. There was a phrase said many, many years ago that, when the body's actually getting tired of it, that's when the neurophysiology of the body is starting to learn that. That's pretty cool, isn't it? Very, very cool. And so understanding that, I believe, is very, 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 very important. Okay. Very, very important. And so knowing that it's not a rocket science thing, it takes time for this to work. It takes time, ladies and gentlemen, for this to work. And so when you think about how this works, it might seem like, oh my gosh, I wish it would just happen overnight, but it doesn't. Muscle memory takes time. Muscle memory takes time to develop. But a lot of people are very impatient. It can vary depending on a lot of factors: complexity of the skill, duration, intensity, previous training, individual differences, if there was any type of trauma or accidents or anything like that, that can greatly affect it. And so, muscle memory is something we might have heard before, but we think it's like something that happens automatically. It doesn't. Athletes, for example, will develop their muscle memory. And when they do this, they actually prevent themselves from getting injured because the body knows how to handle certain types of situations, certain types of stimuli that it might get, whether it's a rough terrain, whether it's a smooth terrain, whether it's a corner. It could be, you know, uh, other conditions that are there. It could be temperature conditions outside, right? We even have muscle memory when we play golf. I love to play golf, but there's muscle memory. Just when I think about, going to play golf, first thing I do is I put my hands together. It's like my muscles already know where to go to hold or handshake the club. Okay. That's important. And even how you swing. But we always said you have to feel it. If you don't feel it, then it's like your body can't reenact it, right? For your body to be able to mimic it or reenact it, you have to feel it. And so as it feels it, that myelin actually builds up and it creates almost like it creates think of it like a chamber of communication, and it just makes that neuron and the axon just respond very quickly. And almost like you ever think about steering a boat. Well, if we steer a boat, we always say that good boats, I'm not sure if you know this, good boats, yachts, what have you, good boats will steer on a dime. Okay. You don't need to turn the wheel all the way around. Okay. What you do need to do is be gentle with it. Okay. When you turn the wheel quickly, it gives you and the passengers on board a jolt. So when you got to turn a little bit to the right, you can turn a little bit, right? You can turn a little bit. So if you know that you turn a little bit to one side, right? Notice when you turn to one side, you go to the left. So what actually happens, you go to the right, you go to the right. So as you turn, it actually puts the motor in the opposite position, the opposite side. So left would go right, so you go left. And so the boat actually move over, but it all happens because of either your inboard, your outboard, or your inboard outboard motor. And so think of it, if you had to think every time that you wanted to steer, that you had to figure out where the boat had to be. All you need to do is figure out that you have to just turn a little bit. And as you turn a little bit, you'll notice that the boat will start to respond to you. Now, as you get more versed with this, okay, boats can turn on a dime, okay? Of course, if you use it wrong, you're going to find yourself and your passengers, unfortunately, planted in the water with your face. So you have to realize that using the boat, you've got to be gentle with it, okay? You have to know how your boat operates, how it turns. You have to know, if you're around a boat, how much clearing distance you need, how much time does it take. We've all talked about, stopping distance with the car, right? But stopping distance with a boat is different. Let me explain that. Stopping distance with a boat, okay, is different than a car. So it's not like driving a vehicle. It's different. So driver's ed students preparing to get behind the wheel of a car are taught about how long it can take to stop a car to avoid a crash, right? With the premise of emphasizing a safe following distance, okay? At a lake, a place where more boats than cars, boaters may be more prone to wonder how quickly a boat can stop. The answer is never quickly enough. A boater who understands his or her reaction time and the best techniques to avoid a collision is best equipped for a safe, fun day on the water. Just note that you cannot stop the boat like you can the car. And so combining this with reducing the throttle to slow the boat, a craft with jet drive, such as PWC, will lose all steering control without forward thrusting. So operator experiences and focus are essential. Okay. Stopping distance in a car, is a lot simpler. A breakdown of the time it takes to detect a potential problem ahead and get the boat moving in a way that will avoid it. Perception time response, 2.5 to 3 seconds. So you always need to be alert more than you are in a car. Now, you're alert in a car too, but you even got to be more alert in the boat because you don't have that luxury to react. The reaction time should be quick in the car too, but in the boat, you have to be even faster. So reaching for the throttle is a half a second. Another half a second passes while operators are moving their hand. So a total of 3.5 seconds passes before the operator begins to change the boat's control by pulling the throttle back or taking the appropriate steering avoidance. So boat's response is up to 1 second. That's a long time. And in addition to this, boat's responses to the helm is never instantaneous. We know that. And there may be as much as an additional second before the vessel responds. It can result in accumulated response time of 5 seconds or more, and a total of 4 to 5 seconds. So a 25-foot boat traveling on a lake at 50 miles per hour could travel 365 feet or 15 boat lengths in the time it takes the operator to pull the throttle or turn the wheel. So this is very important because we have to understand how that works. Now, when we think about muscle memory, we think about how we drive a boat, we start to get familiar with this. When we think about how we operate our bodies, like if I do push-ups or I do certain things, right? Your body knows how to be in what we call form, right? If you run, your body knows how to be in form for that. If your body is doing sit-ups or doing pull-ups, or maybe you're just doing stretches, your body starts to know how to be in that way because you've done it so many times. Before you even think about it, you just think about doing a push-up. It's like, oh, your body's already in form. All right, guys, so we got a lot more to talk about when it comes to dynamics of muscle memory. But I want you to understand how important this is, and I don't want you to take it lightly, because if you can appreciate how our muscles really work, and it's not like our muscles just have some memory cartridge inside. No, the muscle to tell the axons and dendrites what to do is stored in our neurology, not in the muscle itself. So they're the storage area that sends the impulses back out to the correct motor neurons and gets them moving again. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm John C. Morley, serial entrepreneur. It's been a privilege, pleasure, and honor to be with you this fantastic, wonderful Sunday evening. I hope you'll like, love, support the channel. Comment below, tag your friends, colleagues, associates, share this out with everyone you know on social media, and I'll be sure to put out even more content for you guys. I'll be back tomorrow night with another great Inspirations for Your Life show. Until then, have yourself a great night, and remember, making the choice to learn how to develop your muscle memory might impact how successful you really are. Take care and have a great evening, everyone.